Start with aliens picking up a faint, ancient distress beacon from Sol. They laugh. Humans? Dead for millennia. Nothing but fossils in funny uniforms. Then, the beacon decodes into a polite but spine-chilling human message. If you hear this, step back. Reinforcements are en route. The distress beacon cut across the void like a knife through glass. A simple pulse. A cry for help. And in that cry, the galaxy unknowingly signed its own death warrant. Admiral Veyron of the Tsar Dominion leaned back in his command chair, mandibles twitching in amusement. A human signal, he said, his voice rasping like sand on steel. After centuries of silence, they finally squeak again. I had almost believed their extinction myth. The bridge of the Dominion flagship, Carnix, filled with dry laughter. The crew, all Tsar, with armored hides and glittering carapaces, shared the smug satisfaction of predators humoring an old praise ghost. Should we investigate, Admiral? Asked Captain Jurin, his tone dripping sarcasm. Perhaps the humans want to sell us more of their, what do they call it? Fast food? Laughter again. One officer thumped his claw on the console, wheezing. Veyron smirked. Mark the coordinates. We'll sweep the system once the war front stabilizes. No doubt some scavenger species stumbled across a dead human relay and switched it on by accident. Admiral. A younger ensign interrupted cautiously. The beacon repeats in human standard. It states, SOS. Humanity requires immediate assistance. Fleet inbound. The laughter faltered. Fleet inbound? Veyron echoed. His mandibles clicked. Humans had no fleets left. Their last warships were scrapped before my grandfather's hatching. Another officer leaned closer to his console. Admiral, the transmission contains a cipher tag. A code once used by their military command. Now the bridge grew still. For a moment, the only sound was the low hum of the ship's reactors. The Tsar Dominion prided itself on knowing the galaxy's predators, cataloging, dissecting, mastering. But humans? They were an anomaly, a species that vanished after burning too brightly, too chaotically. Their wars were legendary, their cruelty infamous, but they had disappeared so thoroughly that most empires treated them as a cautionary tale, not a threat. And yet, play it, Veyron ordered. The signal echoed across the bridge. Harsh, simple, but undeniably human. SOS. Humanity requires immediate assistance. Fleet inbound. The voice carried no fear. No plea. Just calm inevitability. Perhaps, Captain Jurin said carefully, it's an old automated trap. A bluff. Humans were fond of psychological games. Or, murmured the young ensign, perhaps it's not old. Veyron let silence stretch before finally clicking his mandibles. Dispatch a scout wing. Verify the source. I will not be made the fool by extinct primates. Meanwhile, on the other side of the signal, Commander Elias Rourke stirred the coffee in his chipped mug as if the swirling liquid held tactical secrets. His uniform was unassuming, no polished metals, no ceremonial cape like the peacocking aliens wore. Just plain gray fabric, sleeves rolled, collar loose. On the holodeck before him, the SOS still blinked, transmitting outward in waves that would reach every listening ear across the stars. Think they'll bite? Asked Lieutenant Alvarez, leaning against the bulkhead. She had that grin, half mischief, half dare, the kind humans wore right before starting a bar fight. They'll bite, Rourke said mildly, sipping the coffee. Predators always circle when they smell weakness. We've given them weakness on a silver platter. And when they come sniffing? Rourke smiled faintly. Then we remind them why no one's found human space for 300 years. His words hung in the air like a quiet promise, calm and terrifying. Alien reactions. Across the galaxy, different species intercepted the same signal. On the crystalline world of Kelrath, the high thinkers dismissed it as noise. Humans were primitive storytellers, not fleet builders. In the swarm of Var, brew mothers hissed uneasily. They remembered their ancestors' defeats, and instinct clawed at their minds. On the fringe, pirate clans cheered. If humans truly sent ships, it meant salvage, old, broken tech to plunder. And in the Tsar Dominion, Admiral Veyron's scouts closed in on the signal's origin. First contact with the trap. The scout ships entered the system cautiously. Dead rock. Gas giant. Broken moons. Nothing unusual, except a derelict station orbiting the third planet. It was old, human-made, scarred by centuries. Transmit scans? The scout leader ordered. As the readings came in, his mandibles twitched. The station was active. Barely, but active. Power hummed through ancient conduits. And the beacon pulsed from its heart. Pathetic. One pilot muttered. This is the fleet? Rust and dust? But then their sensors picked something else. Wait. Sir, signatures. Faint. Very faint. Behind the station. The darkness moved. Something vast and silent slid from behind the derelict, its hull blotting out stars. The Tsar scouts froze. It was a ship, human design unmistakable, but nothing like the outdated frigates in museums. This vessel bristled with cannons that made no sense, its lines sharp yet predatory, its sheer size dwarfing their cruisers. Its hull shimmered with a cloaking residue that suggested it had been hiding for who knew how long? The human ship powered up slowly, deliberately, as if stretching after a long sleep. A single transmission lanced across comms, in perfect Dominion standard. You received our signal. Good. Stay where you are. The voice was calm, polite. Almost friendly. The Tsar scouts, seasoned killers, felt something they had not felt in decades. Fear. Back on the human flagship. Alvarez chuckled. They saw the Vanguard, didn't they? Rourke set his mug down with deliberate care. Good. Let them look. Fear is a weapon, same as torpedoes. And when they run back to their admiral? That, Rourke said, eyes cold now, is exactly what we want. He tapped the holodeble, bringing up tactical overlays, projected Dominion fleet routes, likely interception points. His calm voice carried the weight of inevitability. They think they've sniffed weakness. What they've actually sniffed is bait. He leaned back, folding his hands. And when the predators swarm, humanity's deadliest fleet will remind them. He paused, a smile tugging at his lips. That the galaxy only thought we were gone. The Zarathian council chamber was a theater of arrogance. Great crystalline pillars arched overhead, refracting alien light into dazzling patterns. Delegates of half a dozen species murmured among themselves as holographic data spirals displayed the mysterious human signal, still pulsing across the stars. To the aliens, it was noise. To the humans, it was an invitation. At the center table sat Commander Elias Ward, a lean, silver-templed human in a navy uniform so plain it almost mocked the ceremonial robes of the others. His calm smile never faltered. He tapped a finger against the data pad as if the meeting were merely an inconvenience wedged between his morning coffee and a crossword puzzle. The alien representatives, however, simmered with tension. A snake-bodied Vrax diplomat uncoiled, his scales shimmering with irritation. Humans, explain. This signal you unleashed, it resonates across half the spiral arm. Distress code, weapon activation, or some barbaric ritual? Ward tilted his head, smile unwavering. Oh, that? Just a little emergency broadcast. You know, like how you leave a spare key under the mat, in case you lock yourself out. The chamber rippled with confusion. The insectoid Cherhive speaker clicked her mandibles. Keys do not summon fleets. Ward chuckled lightly. Depends on what's behind the door, doesn't it? Aliens growing unease. The discussion spiraled. The Orin, a moss-covered philosopher species, spoke in resonant tones. This signal, Commander Ward, bears coding layers we cannot decipher. It hums with intent, military intent. Ward leaned forward, voice lowering just enough to sound conspiratorial. Well, we humans like a bit of redundancy. When you grow up on a death world, you develop habits. Spare food in the pantry, backup batteries, and yes, maybe a fleet or two parked where no one looks. The delegates froze. For a moment, even the refracted lights seemed to dim. A gelatinous Mornaxian gurgled nervously. Fleet? Singular? Or plural? Ward's grin was disarmingly warm. Oh, I wouldn't want to bore you with math. Banter veiled threats. The Vrax diplomat slammed a claw against the table. Do you threaten this council? We tolerated your species because your numbers are small and your world's fragile. You cannot expect us to believe. Ward interrupted softly. His voice never rose, but it sliced sharper than any weapon. Believe? Oh, I wouldn't dream of forcing you. History handles that for me. When humans say, "Don't make us come over there," it's not a metaphor. A few chuckles broke out from braver delegates. Others shifted uncomfortably. The Chur-Hive speaker tilted her head, mandibles clattering in thought. Humans, your tone is humorous, yet your words drip with steel. Which mask is truth? Ward steepled his fingers. Both. That's the trick. We laugh so we don't scream. We joke while we sharpen knives. Survival taught us to wear politeness as armor, and to never, ever bluff when the stakes matter. Revelation of the signal. Finally, the council chair, an ancient Threx elder whose translucent skin showed glowing veins, spoke. His voice was weary but sharp. Enough riddles, human. What is this signal's purpose? Ward tapped the console, projecting the waveform into the chamber. The signal unfolded, layers upon layers of modulation. Not random noise. Not a plea for help. A summons. 5 centuries ago, Ward explained, our explorers built, let's call them insurance policies. Hidden shipyards, automated arsenals, sleeper fleets and deep cryo. The kind of toys you only dust off when your house is truly on fire. That signal? He gestured to the shimmering spiral. That's us ringing the dinner bell. The chamber erupted. Shouts, growls, hisses, and electronic tones filled the air. The Mornaxian nearly melted into the floor. You mean these fleets still function after 500 years? Ward's smile broadened. Oh, you'd be amazed what survives when it's designed by paranoid engineers who refuse to die quietly. Alien panic rising. The Vrax diplomat hissed. If this is true, then every world in proximity is in danger. Why would you unleash such madness? Ward's tone softened, almost apologetic. Why? Because sometimes, the monsters under the bed are real. And sometimes, they don't knock politely before kicking down your door. The Oran philosopher leaned forward, vines trembling. You expect us to believe this was a defensive gesture? Ward's eyes hardened, smile fading for the first time. Not defensive. Preventative. We've learned the universe doesn't give participation trophies. Either you prepare for the worst, or you become the cautionary tale. A silence hung thick, oppressive. The alien stared at the human, finally beginning to glimpse the abyss behind the smile. Human quirk, alien shock. Then Ward leaned back, casually breaking the tension. Also, he added, the signal doubles as a pizza order. Extra cheese. Can't call in the apocalypse without snacks. The Chur-Hive speaker froze mid-clack. The Mornaxian quivered uncertainly. The joke rolled across the chamber like a strange, alien storm. Some didn't understand. Some were horrified. And a few, like the Threx elder, understood too well. The humor wasn't for levity. It was camouflage. A predator's grin before the strike. Closing with suspense. The elder finally spoke again, voice brittle. Commander Ward? If your words are truth, then humanity has just altered the balance of the galaxy. Ward's smile returned, softer now. He adjusted his cuff, voice polite and steady. Elder, with respect, humanity was never balanced. We were the weight waiting at the end of the lever. And now? He looked at the hologram of the signal, pulsing stronger with each passing moment. Now we've decided it's time to push. The chamber lights flickered. Somewhere in the void beyond, something vast and ancient stirred in answer to humanity's call. The vigilant dawn slid into contested space like a card shark walking into a rigged table, quiet, unassuming, yet carrying enough concealed blades to end the night early. From the bridge's wide viewport, distant flashes of plasma fire painted the void in violent streaks, the war between two alien coalitions burning hot. To Commander Marcus Hale, it looked less like a war and more like an amateur brawl outside a dive bar. He sipped his coffee, lukewarm, bitter, and irreplaceable this far from Sol. "They've escalated," murmured Lieutenant Arden, her voice calm but her eyes tracking the swelling clusters of alien ships. "If they notice us—" "They already have," Marcus interrupted softly, setting his mug down with surgical precision. "You just haven't noticed them noticing us yet." A sharp ping confirmed it. 3 alien dreadnoughts pivoted toward their sector. Marcus straightened his uniform collar, then tapped the comms console. "Put me through. Full broadcast. Smile setting." The alien flagship filled the screen, a beast of steel layered with ritualistic carvings. Its commander appeared, Admiral Cartil, a scaled monstrosity whose voice grated like metal dragged on stone. "Humans," he sneered. "This is not your war. Withdraw before your quaint vessel is vaporized." Marcus tilted his head, polite as a professor explaining arithmetic to a stubborn child. "Admiral Cartil, I appreciate the courtesy of your warning. But unfortunately your fleet is drifting in restricted waters." Cartil blinked, incredulous. "Restricted? By whose claim?" "By ours." Marcus's voice didn't rise, didn't harden. He just let the words hang like a trap disguised as silk. "You see, a beacon was triggered. Old agreements bind us. I'm sure you understand, contracts are everything in civilized society." The alien admiral hissed. His lieutenants whispered frantically in the background. None of them knew the details, but they all understood the tone. Humans didn't bluff. They smiled while sharpening the axe. Cartil tried to recover. "Your species is fractured, primitive. You have no right to dictate." Marcus cut him off with a laugh so disarmingly genuine it made his crew glance sideways. "Primitive? Admiral, my people mastered the art of smiling at dinner with in-laws who wanted us dead. Do you really want to test how long we can keep a polite face while planning your funeral?" The alien's crest stiffened, but he ended the transmission with a snap. Marcus leaned back in his chair. "They'll either retreat or lunge. And if they lunge, we cut deeper than they thought possible." The ship buzzed with restrained energy. Human fleets were built leaner than alien armadas, but every vessel hid surprises. The Vigilant Dawn was no exception. Arden broke the silence. "Sir, I don't think they'll back down. Pride outweighs logic in their chain of command." "Of course," Marcus replied. "It's always pride. The galaxy runs on it. Which makes it predictable." He swiveled to face his officers. "Deploy veils. On my mark, I want the Dawn to be 3 kilometers left of where they think we are." The crew worked without hesitation. Unlike alien ships bloated with hierarchy, human vessels thrived on sharp minds trusted to act. Minutes later, the first plasma volley ripped through the void where the Dawn had been. "Mark," Marcus said calmly. The ship blinked into its new position, like a magician sliding a card under his sleeve. The alien dreadnoughts corrected too slowly. By the time their guns realigned, the Dawn's hidden payloads had already been launched, swarms of hunter drones, invisible on conventional scans, moving like sharks toward soft underbellies. Explosions blossomed. One dreadnought staggered, venting fire. Another shield stuttered, then died. The bridge filled with whoops and restrained cheers. Marcus raised a finger. "Don't celebrate yet. This is the part where they panic." Sure enough, the alien flagship's comms flared open. Admiral Cartil's snarl was replaced with barely restrained fear. "You dare strike at sovereign vessels? This will bring every house, every banner, against you." Marcus smiled, a slow, deliberate thing. "Good. Saves us the trouble of sending out invitations." The crew absorbed the words in silence, each officer realizing what their commander had implied. This wasn't a skirmish. It was bait. Arden spoke first, her voice low. "You wanted them to escalate." Marcus didn't deny it. He folded his hands like a man discussing theater tickets. "They think they've cornered a fox. They haven't realized they've stepped into the tiger's den. The signal that summoned us? It wasn't a distress call. It was a key. The bridge chilled at his words. Far beyond their current battle, deep in the void, ancient systems stirred. Buried fleets, hidden for centuries, whispered awake as the beacon rippled through secure channels. Forgotten war engines hummed back to life, their guardians waiting for coordinates. Humanity had not scattered after the old wars, they had prepared. The aliens didn't know that every, outdated, human vessel was just a mask. That every polite diplomat hid knives behind their words. That every signal could mean the return of predators disguised as peacekeepers. The alien dreadnoughts regrouped, desperation making them reckless. Plasma storms hammered toward the dawn. One strike grazed the hull, shuttering the bridge. Arden steadied herself. Shields holding. Barely. Marcus checked his chrono. Good enough. Patch me back through. The screen flickered again. Admiral Cartel's face filled it, furious and cracked with doubt. Human, the Admiral spat. Do you think this ends with you alive? Marcus leaned forward, voice honeyed with menace. Admiral, I've already lived long enough to watch your pride write your obituary. All that's left is to pick out the font. He cut the channel before the alien could respond. Moments later, the horizon bloomed. Not with alien fire, but with new signatures, massive, cloaked vessels decloaking like leviathans rising from the deep. Arden's eyes widened. Sir, those are ours. Dozens of titanic silhouettes filled the dark, each bristling with weapons, their hulls marked with ancient human crests long thought lost. The Dawn's crew froze, awe mingling with terror. Marcus didn't move, didn't blink. He simply let a small, polite smile curl at the corner of his mouth. Gentlemen, he whispered, almost too soft to hear. The fleet has arrived. The alien dreadnoughts scattered like prey animals catching scent of a wolf pack. But the void was sealed. Humanity's forgotten armada had returned, not summoned by desperation, but by design. Marcus lifted his mug, now cold, and sipped. Let's begin. The fleet hung in orbit like a predator waiting for the heartbeat of prey to falter. Around the command deck of the Vigilant Resolve, every screen painted the void in ghostly hues. Broken alien armadas drifting, wreckage still smoldering from the last encounter, faint echoes of signals scattering across the spectrum. Yet beneath the quiet hum of systems, anticipation coiled like a blade unsheathed but not yet swung. Admiral Rourke stood at the central console, one hand resting lightly on the rail. His face was unreadable, carved in the calm patience that had carried humanity through countless crises. But his eyes, those carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken moves already calculated. Lieutenant Marin broke the silence. Sir, we've confirmed the distress beacon was real. Cross-checked with long-range sensors. Origin matches the dead colonies. Same frequency we've seen since the fall. Rourke's gaze flicked toward her. And the response? Every major power in the sector has mobilized. Scouts, battle groups, opportunists. They're all converging on the signal. Around the deck, officers exchanged glances. It wasn't the news itself that carried dread, but what it meant. Every species had heard the same call, and none of them knew it wasn't theirs to answer. Rourke allowed the pause to stretch, then spoke evenly. Good. Let them come. The words landed like steel. Not bravado, not a threat, merely a fact placed on the table. Marin hesitated before pressing further. Sir, forgive me, but isn't this dangerous? We'll be outnumbered, surrounded on all sides. Rourke finally smiled, faint as the crescent of a moon. Dangerous for them. The bridge returned to its rhythm, officers bending back over their stations, though each carried a ripple of unease and exhilaration. None of them doubted their admiral. Humanity's strength had never been numbers. It was the habit of being underestimated, right until the moment of revelation. Hours later, the tactical map bloomed alive. Flares of incoming ships spread across the sector, threading toward the beacon's locus. Dozens of species, the clawed silhouettes of the Trinax, the serpentine arcs of the Vorl, angular predator frigates of the Tlor. Each formation glittered with menace, rival empires converging in curiosity and greed. Commander Vela, The alien liaison who had pledged herself to the humans leaned close to the display. Her scales darkened with unease. They're not allies, Admiral. They'll fire on each other as soon as they fire on us. A frenzy of teeth. Exactly. Rourke adjusted the map with 2 fingers, dragging lines across the stars until they intersected in sharp geometry. A frenzy will guide. Let them believe the beacon is theirs to claim. Let them fight to exhaustion. Then we strike? Vela asked. Rourke's answer was a whisper. Then we finish what they started 5 centuries ago. The first skirmishes sparked without warning. Alien vessels fired salvos across disputed approach lanes, each convinced they had the superior claim. Explosions lit the void in blossoms of fire. The humans watched from the shadows of debris fields, cloaked ships holding formation in the darkness. Captain Idris leaned on the railing, muttering, "Like wolves tearing each other apart for the last scrap of meat." Marin glanced at him. "And we're the hunters watching the pack." "Hunters?" Idris shook his head. "No. We're the fire waiting for the dry grass to catch." As battles raged, transmissions flooded open channels. "Unauthorized interference, withdraw at once. By right of conquest, this sector belongs to the Voil Ascendancy. All forces are warned, we will not yield the relic." Voices overlapped, shouted, cut by static and screams. In the maelstrom, Rourke's fleet remained silent. Finally, Marin reported, "Admiral, enemy casualties already exceeding projections. Both Trinax and Voil groups crippled. The Ascendancy flagship is venting atmosphere." "Good," Rourke said. His tone had not shifted since the first moment of the day. "Signal the Ghost Wings." A quiet murmur swept the deck. The Ghost Wings were not ships anyone outside humanity should have remembered existed. Sleek predators, their engines silent, their hulls blackened to drink the stars. Designed not for war, but for annihilation. "Orders, sir?" Marin asked. Rourke's hand brushed the console, his voice barely above breath. "Let them see us." The Ghost Wings dropped cloak in a synchronized ripple. To alien eyes, it was as though the void itself had split open and disgorged hunters that had never known defeat. Human ships, forgotten, whispered of only in myths, fleets said to be lost in Earth's fall, now surrounded the carnage. Engines burned blue. Weapons charged in silence. The alien armadas faltered. Their calm's channels erupted in alarm. "Impossible, they were destroyed. Those ships are legends. Humans should not, cannot." Panic replaced hunger. Unity replaced rivalry, but far too late. "Target their command vessels," Rourke ordered. "No speeches. No warnings. End it." The Ghost Wings obeyed. Lances of light tore through enemy flagships. Alien admirals vanished in fire before they could rally. Wreckage spun into the black, joining centuries of bones already lost there. The fleet moved with precision no coalition could match. Every strike was calculated, every retreat a lure. The aliens, so eager for the beacon, now faced predators they had mocked into myth. Vela stood frozen at the display, her voice low with awe. "Admiral, this isn't battle. This is extermination." Rourke's eyes never left the screen. "Extermination would be wasteful. This is demonstration." Marin shivered at the word. "Demonstration for who?" Rourke finally turned, his expression carved in iron. "For everyone still listening. They thought Earth was silent. Tonight they learned silence was just a breath before speaking." The final hours passed in ruthless precision. Alien fleets broke and scattered, survivors fleeing into the darkness. None dared linger near the beacon now. It pulsed red, unchanged, a single note in the void calling to ears that would never come again. On the bridge of the Vigilant Resolve, the crew sat in the dim glow of aftermath. No cheers, no triumph. Only the weight of what had been done, and the greater storms still to come. Rourke looked across his officers, then spoke with quiet gravity. "This was the beginning. When the signal repeats, others will come. Stronger. Smarter. But remember this night. Remember what it means to be underestimated." He rested both hands on the console, gaze fixed on the beacon still burning in the distance. The galaxy wanted to summon a savior. Instead, it summoned us. The silence after his words carried more force than any battle cry.